We're going to be going again through Canvas assignments. So we'll be talking all about like, where can I create an assignment? Let me make this bigger for you, make it a little bit better. Where can I create an assignment? And what does it look like in each of those places? And maybe some tips that we've learned along the way. Mistakes maybe that we've seen from other teachers or questions that other teachers have had. So where can I create those assignments? Some tips on actually creating and adding details to the assignment, making sure we're still syncing with PowerSchool, all that kind of stuff. And then what submission types do I have available to me? Because when we're in the classroom and we're collecting assignments from students, and even if we're putting these things in Canvas, there might be things that we want to be able to do now because those students are at home. So looking at different submission types, and we'll talk about the external tools as well that are available, because there's some Plato content that might be helpful. I'm going to quickly just go through a student submission, what that looks like, and then I've got 2 little tips there for you at the end. So going into Canvas, I'm already actually signed into Canvas here, and when I look at how can I create assignments and where can I create assignments, there's really 3 places to do it. And there's no like right or wrong answer here. It's really a matter of what you're comfortable with and what makes sense for your course, however it's organized. So the first place I'm going to start is the calendar, actually. And honestly, we didn't anticipate this being the most popular place for people to add their assignments, but I would say, and I'm sure Chad and Jenny would agree, this is probably the place that most people start. And it makes sense because it's organized. It's organized by date, which we already, our students are already thinking about, like, these are the days that I have to do these things. So just depending on now what your course looks like, right? Because our world has changed and we're on this Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule that's completely virtual. So, what does it look like for your students? How are you communicating those things to the kids? My own husband is working in Canvas right now, but he's got weekly expectations for the students versus daily expectations. So, he might put out his expectations just on Monday on his calendar, but then have an assignment due on Friday. So, speaking of that, I had a teacher call me yesterday and she said, I've got an assignment that the students should be spending all week on, and it shows up on Friday with the due date of, let's say, April 10th. Can I get it to show up on all the other days? Unfortunately, no. But what I did recommend to her, and when I click on one of these days, you'll see what I mean. What I recommended to her is that she might add an event on each of the days that she expects students to be working on that assignment. And maybe we just call it a work day and then link the assignment. So I'm going to show you what that looks like quickly. I'm going to title this, and I'll just title it Workday number 1. And it's Monday's date. And all the way down at the bottom here, this is a huge just a point of interest, I guess, for all of our teachers. So down at the bottom, right now, you'll see the calendar. It says Sarah Margison. We've had plenty of teachers that have gone and added events on their calendar, especially when we were back in our classroom or when we were in our classrooms previously, added events to their calendar, and it was adding it to their calendar versus adding it to the course calendar. So how do I change that? If I add it to my calendar, I'm just going to simply click calendar and then I click the correct calendar and submit. Let's say, though, that I added it to the wrong calendar. So let me add my second workday. And I'm just going through, I'm plugging through, I got all these days. And you'll notice that this one is light blue and this one's sort of maroon or dark purple. If I add it to the wrong calendar, I'm just going to click on it, edit, and change it to the correct one. So it's not like all is not lost if you add a bunch of things to your calendar, but just know that there are multiple calendars within this. So now let's say I've got 2 work days and I want an assignment now on Wednesday, April 8th. And that's actually when the assignment's going to be due. So instead of an event, I'm going to click over to assignment. And now I'm going to add my title. Very creative title here. This is my assignment. And I think it's super important as a parent of a child that is going through this remote learning, and as somebody that's been helping teachers over the last several weeks conceptually think about how they're going to organize things. I think it's so important that you're very explicit on, this is the assignment for this day, this is when it's due, these are the expectations, because that face-to-face time with the students is gone. I know you guys know this. That face-to-face time though is gone. That daily check-in with every one of your kids is gone. And so communication is so key here. And so maybe instead of just putting, this is my assignment, I also put April 8th, because that's very clear then that this is an assignment that is expected to be turned in on April 8th, or however you guys organize those. In this screen here, I also have the option to sync it to PowerSchool and to publish it, but I don't have a whole lot of other options from this screen. I'm going to, at this point, just click submit. And this has now put it on the calendar, and it's put it on my students' calendars. But again, I haven't put any expectations in there yet. So if I click on the assignment again and I click edit, or if before when I was putting the assignment in, I started right away by clicking that more options, that's going to bring me to my assignments edit screen. So you guys should be familiar with this screen. It's got our point values, what submission type, when is it due, all that stuff. I'm not going to edit it from here right now because I want to talk about the other ways to add assignments. So that's the calendar. I've added an assignment via the calendar. I've added some events leading up to that assignment, and maybe I code these all the same way. Assignment number 1, workday, assignment number 1, workday, and then assignment number 1, due date. Again, super clear, because we want to make sure that the students are meeting the expectations during this kind of crazy time. So aside from being able to add those assignments to the calendar, I can also just go directly to my course. So the second option I'm going to talk about is adding an assignment to a module. If you've not created modules in the past, modules are like file folders. They're going to hold the course content all together. That's all related, and you get to decide how that content is organized. Folders could be by units, by chapters, by topics. At this point, honestly, it could be by days. So maybe I've got a module labeled Monday, April 6th. And these are the things that I expect them to get done by Monday, April 6th, or even maybe by the week. Something along those lines. So I think we can kind of expand how we see modules and how we've used modules in the past, given this new way of learning. So I'm just going to create a module. We'll just say we're on chapter 7. And I created that module by clicking the plus button up at the top right-hand corner, and I can create a bunch of modules. So if I want to add an assignment to this module, I'm on chapter 7 here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And on the right-hand side, I've got this plus button, and that's going to allow me to add content to this module. What you'll notice is the assignment that I already created for my calendar shows up in that list, which is awesome. So let me just add that assignment quickly. So I'm going to add my April 8th assignment. But let's say I also want to create a brand new assignment in this module. I'm going to click my plus button again. And again, add assignment, and I will click new assignment, and then it allows me to name it. So let's make an April 10th assignment, and I click add item. What you'll notice is there's some differences between these two assignments. This one is gray, which means it's not published for students. It does not have a due date. And I mean, this one doesn't have any points, but this one also doesn't have any points. It doesn't have any expectations in it. So when I click on that, that's going to bring me to that edit screen, which we'll get to in just a second. The final way to add an assignment is to just go directly to assignments. Now, I'm going to caution this because I want you guys to make sure that you're thinking about how your campus course is really organized for students. Because as you can imagine, right now, I only have 2 assignments in my course, and that's fine. But as you can imagine, if I've been using my campus course for a while, and now I'm also using it for all this remote learning, this list is going to be very long, and it's not going to be super organized. So just keep in mind that if you are sending students to that remote learning, or sorry, to the assignments for their remote learning, you need to be very explicit on where you expect them to go or ask them to use that calendar. So from this page here, up at the top right hand corner, I have plus assignment, and that's where I can begin to add and edit an assignment. So now we're going to get to this screen and we're going to add assignments for our class. So I've got my assignment name. And again, I can't caution you enough to just make sure that you're super explicit about this is the assignment for this day, or this is a remote learning assignment. So maybe I say remote learning April 10th. Below that, I have my rich content editor. There's a few things that I want to mention about this because we've talked about those 4 things that we think you should think about as you're creating content for students. So, welcoming them to the class, presenting the content in multiple methods, allowing them to collaborate, and then finally allowing them to show you that they have completed the assignment, however they're going to do that. Those 4 things could happen within a module, but they could really also happen within an assignment here, because maybe the assignment for the students is just to go through XYZ activities and then submit what they've learned, or a summary or a video or whatever it is. So I can add content here. So maybe I'm going to add a welcome message, and this is actually a Screencastify video. So instead of taking up time to actually create a video, we're doing that on Monday, by the way, if you want to join us for Screencastify. But I create a welcome message, and this is the first step. So then after they watch the video, I'm going to give them some time to explore the content. And in here, I have links to maybe our textbook. I have links to other websites. I have videos for them to watch. I have articles for them to read, and so on, right? So I've got multiple ways for the students to access that content, and a ton of content in there for them. So that if I do have students that maybe don't have reliable internet access at home and have requested paper copies of things, I can give them paper copies of these articles. Maybe they can't watch the videos, but they can be reading some of the content that I'm still able to print out, or that they're able to still get paper copies of. Beyond that, now I have some time for collaboration. So maybe my collaboration, I'm going to keep plugging it, is a link to a Flipgrid. That's actually part of their assignment, is to complete the Flipgrid and answer whatever question prompt that I have. And then lastly, I'm going to ask them for the submission. And now I'm going to put details in Canvas for how they're going to add that submission to this class. This is very organized, and maybe I can add some icons in there, kind of make it look a little pretty. And this is the way I'm going to structure every single one of those assignments every time I expect the students to submit something in Canvas. Again, just an idea. If you're looking for a way, you're kind of feeling like you're trying not to drown in all of this content. So then I'm going to put some points in there. Let me talk to you guys about assignment groups, because this is going to be the way that you are going to sync your grades to PowerSchool as a reminder. So there are a few things that you need to do to get started with that. On our Canvas assignments outline, I will link our welcome message that had all those screenshots. I don't have any PowerSchool courses, so I'm not able to show you that completely, but first thing you're going to want to do is set up any categories that you use within PowerSchool. And that's probably already done because we're like halfway through the semester. The second thing you need to do is import assignment categories. And I can actually show you, let me pop out quickly and show you what that looks like, because I can actually show you that part. So if I'm ready to import my assignment categories, on my assignments page, so where I get that list of assignments there, I'm going to click the 3 dots and I'm going to choose import assignment groups. When that comes over, every category that I have imported from PowerSchool, which means that it's going to actually allow me to sync up with my grades, is going to have this little paper icon next to it, which is awesome. That's going to indicate to me that that category can be pushed to PowerSchool. And that's going to be very helpful when I go to then create these assignments and put them into groups. So let's imagine that right next to this, where it says assignments here, let's imagine that this little icon is right next to that assignments there. Great. Are you guys imagining it? Hopefully. So I'm going to get back to my edit screen. And then in my assignment group, now I've got this assignments category. Again, we have to imagine that that little piece of paper was there. You will have assignment groups that do not have that piece of paper and assignment groups that do have that piece of paper. If you're looking to sync your grades, use the ones that have that piece of paper. So that's the second step. The next step, and I'll just scroll down a little bit to show you guys that, and most of you already know this because we've been doing this for years, sync to PowerSchool needs to be checked. Sync to PowerSchool needs to be checked. The last piece of it I will show you once I finish editing my assignment. Okay, so we went through our assignment group. And now we're going to go through submission type. And depending on how your class has run in the past, you may have been an on paper person, which means that you were giving the students the details maybe on the Canvas calendar or something like that, but you were still collecting physical papers or physical projects in your class. That became a lot harder the last couple weeks, right? So we're going to talk about online submissions, and I'm going to run through each of these submission types just so that you know, because again, now that we know that we're going to be using the computer for a little while, some of these submission types might be a little more helpful since we're not going to have students in our classes. So with text entry, it's going to allow them to type within Canvas. The caveat to that is that you're not going to get the speed grader annotation tools that you would normally get if you have them submit a Google Doc or a PowerPoint or a slideshow or something like that, a PDF even. So text entry, though, is good if you just want like a quick check-in with them and you just want them to type something in as a paragraph. Website URL is going to be maybe they've created something on another website, or you're asking them to do some research and you want them to submit that. They can submit a website URL. This would also work well if you maybe have them using Screencastify and creating a Screencastify video. When they create that video, they can just copy it and paste it as a website URL. Media recordings is going to allow them to use their webcam and their microphone to actually record something within Canvas. We have the same functionality with Screencastify, so it just depends on which one you want to use. Either one works. And then finally, and probably the most popular one, is file uploads. And that's going to allow them to actually upload something like a document, upload from their Google Drive, and so on. So you might just think about creating or allowing students to use multiple submission types, especially if we're going back to our best practices. Multiple submission types is going to be very helpful. Then I will scroll down. I'm going to make sure that it's assigned to everybody, that it has a due date, and finally I'll choose save and publish. So now I can see on my assignment, let me zoom out just a little bit. This is what my assignment looks like for students. They've got the content here. They understand what the submission details are, and they know when it's due and when it's available. Going back to syncing my grades. So let's say students have submitted their assignment. You can see here that I have it synced to PowerSchool, but I'm noticing that the grade isn't coming over, and that's because we're missing one last step. On your left-hand navigation, you have an item that says grade sync. We want to keep that grade sync on. That is not visible to students, so keep that in mind. But what we recommend is, so import your assignment categories, make sure that little box is checked and that the assignments are in the correct categories. And then finally, you'll notice I have a reporting tab and a sync tab. In this sync tab, you can choose to schedule a daily sync. This is going to be awesome. And I click save. What this will do for my course is it's going to automatically every day at it's going to be about 9 a.m. here. It's going to look in my course and it's going to say, does this course have any new grades that it needs to sync to PowerSchool? And it's going to sync those grades automatically for me. And I don't have to worry about pushing those manually. This is great. In my reporting tab, then it's going to give me just a status update every time it does those. So if there are any errors, or if I'm noticing hey, I did all the steps that she said, I synced the grades, it still didn't come over. We are able to see, and you are able to see in this area if there were any errors. I would say the number one error is that the assignment was not in the correct category. That category that it's in doesn't have that piece of paper, and that's what we want to make sure that we look at. The last piece that I want to talk about here in assignments, and then I'm just going to go back to my outline, is creating an assignment from an external tool, and specifically Plato. So if you remember, we have a subscription to Plato content, which means that these are mastery kind of content. The students are given a video or some activity to watch, and then they go through a quiz, and it pushes a grade back over. It's going to push a mastery grade back over. So it'll be either 100% or 0%, depending on if they reached that mastery, which is 80%, I believe. So I'm going to choose external tool here, and then I'll click find. And then if I scroll down in this list, I will see Plato courseware. And then I'm just going to click select. I'm going to choose to load this tool in a new tab because I find that it does tend to work better if I do that. So let's say I've already made my stuff for the 10th. So I'm going to make it April 13th. And I'm going to click, got everything else. I'm going to click save. So what you'll notice is that I have not chosen any content yet. I also haven't published this assignment. But when I click save, I have load Plato in a new window. And then it's going to allow me to load that Plato content and browse the courses that Plato has available to me. So 2 things. You can create an assignment right now, just as I did, choose external tool, and have it choose Plato, and not actually ever go in and choose any content in here. Why would you want to do that? Because then you have the ability to browse the Plato content all the time. So if I exit out of this and I go back into my course and my assignments, I have this Plato content here that every single time I choose load Plato in a new window, it just brings me back to that list of content available to me and my students. And it makes this is really the only way for you to browse content for your kids. Now, let's say, though, that I've done that and I've chosen content, or I want to choose content. So I'm going to go to Algebra 1 Semester 2 and let's go with unit. Right now I'm trying to think. I would be probably on solving quadratic equations if I was teaching Algebra 2 Semester 2 or Algebra 1 Semester 2. And next to each of these items, if I choose to expand that item, and this is probably super small for you guys, but if I choose to expand that item, I can preview the content here. And when I'm ready to make my selection, I just choose select. And then it will then assign that content to students once I come back in here and make sure that it's published. So I've selected the content for students and it's published. As my students come in here, I'm going to get more information about are they on task? Have they completed it? Are they in progress? Has it not been started yet? And so on. All right. Wrapping up here, a few things. Yes, one of the things that is new in Canvas, and I know this feature came out when all of this stuff was starting, so you may have missed this feature, but in Canvas, if you're looking at collaborating with some of your colleagues and you've created this really rich, awesome remote learning assignment and you want to share it with somebody, Canvas has made it even easier to share content with colleagues. If I click the 3 dots next to my assignment, I have the option, it's probably because I'm zoomed in too much. I have the option here, of course, there we go. I have the option here to send that content to a colleague. So I could say send to, and then I'm going to find Jenny. And because I'm zoomed in. And I can send that content to Jenny. Or I can choose, because maybe I don't want to send it to another colleague, but I want to copy it to another one of my courses. I did all this work and I want to copy it to somebody else or to one of my courses. Then I'm able to copy it here and send it to one of my courses. So a question just came up, but I do want to answer my own question first, because the first question that I had was, okay, well, where does that go if I send it to them? Because I didn't choose any of her courses. In Jenny's course, if she clicks account, she will have an option that says shared content. And then it's going to look, it's a little present, right? It's going to show her where or who has shared content with her. And then it's going to allow her to accept it and import it into her course as well. And then the last thing I want to mention is, just as a reminder, we are able to add rubrics maybe for easier grading, especially if we're looking at setting expectations for our students. We want to make sure that we're clear on those expectations. I've seen a lot of teachers recently that have started to do single point rubrics, 1 point rubrics. So either you did what was expected or you didn't do what was expected. And so then students can go back in and edit any of that stuff that they need to. Okay, for this moment, I'm going to stop